Emily Carter, we're terminating your employment effective immediately. The words hit me like a physical blow. I sat frozen in the HR conference room, my hands trembling on the table. Dana, my supervisor, wouldn't meet my eyes. The HR representative, a stone-faced woman named Patricia, slid a folder across the table. Multiple complaints of unprofessional behavior, insubordination, and workplace harassment. What? My voice cracked. That's not true. None of that is true. Mark, my coworker, sat in the corner with his arms crossed, wearing the faintest smirk. He'd been quiet this whole meeting, just watching me fall apart. We have documented evidence, Patricia continued coldly. Your belongings will be boxed up. Security will escort you out. I stood on shaking legs, my vision blurring with tears. This couldn't be happening. 2 years of dedication, late nights, perfect performance reviews. Gone in 15 minutes. As I reached the door, Mark leaned close and whispered, "Should have stayed in your lane." Something inside me shifted. I glanced up at the security camera mounted in the corner, its red light blinking steadily. I whispered to myself, "This isn't over." 6 months earlier, I'd walked into Apex Marketing Group with butterflies in my stomach and stars in my eyes. At 30 years old, this was my dream opportunity. A senior marketing coordinator position with real growth potential. The office buzzed with energy, creativity flowing through every department. My first week, I met Mark Sullivan. Charming smile, easy laugh, always the first to welcome new hires. "You're going to love it here," he said, shaking my hand with practiced warmth. He showed me around, introduced me to everyone, made me feel like part of the family. Dana Winters, our department supervisor, seemed equally welcoming. Image-conscious and polished, she ran our team with precision. "We value initiative here," she told me during our first one-on-one. "Show me what you can do." I did exactly that. I threw myself into every project, stayed late perfecting presentations, volunteered for the difficult clients. Within 4 months, I'd increased engagement on our flagship campaign by 40%. Then came the announcement that changed everything. A director-level position opening up. Internal candidates only. I was shortlisted alongside 3 others. Mark was one of them. The day after the shortlist went public, Mark's entire demeanor shifted. The friendly colleague who'd grabbed coffee with me every morning suddenly became distant, competitive. In meetings, he started speaking over me, dismissing my suggestions before I could finish explaining them. "That won't work," he'd say, cutting me off mid-sentence. Then he'd present nearly the same idea 10 minutes later, repackaged in his words. The first time it happened, I thought I'd misunderstood. The second time I felt confused. By the third time I knew it was deliberate. "You need to speak up more," Dana told me after one particularly frustrating meeting. But whenever I tried, Mark would interrupt or Dana would redirect the conversation. My work friend, someone I'll call Alex, pulled me aside one afternoon. Alex worked in the design department but had been at Apex for 5 years. "Be careful with Mark," Alex warned quietly. "He's done this before. Last promotion cycle, the other finalists suddenly left the company under weird circumstances." "What kind of circumstances?" asked. Alex shrugged uncomfortably. "Just watch your back." That same evening, I stayed late to finish a presentation. Around 8 o'clock I went to the break room for coffee. When I returned, Mark was at my desk, his hands inside my unlocked drawer. "Looking for something?" asked, my heart pounding. Mark jerked back, his face flushing red before he recovered with that practiced smile. "Oh, Emily, you startled me. I was just leaving you a note about tomorrow's meeting. Your drawer was open, and I didn't want the note to blow away, so I was weighing it down with your stapler. It was a terrible lie. My drawer hadn't been open. I always closed it. And there was no note anywhere in sight." "Right," I said slowly. "Thanks." He brushed past me, that smile still plastered on his face. I checked my drawer thoroughly. Nothing seemed missing, but something felt violated. I started locking it after that. 3 days later, everything exploded. I was presenting to a major client, pulling up the proposal I'd spent 2 weeks perfecting. The room went silent as I opened the file. The crucial attachment, 30 pages of market analysis and projected ROI, was missing. "I'm so sorry," I stammered, frantically searching my email. "I attached it. I know I did. Let me find it." The client looked annoyed. Dana looked furious. Mark looked concerned in that fake theatrical way that made my skin crawl. I couldn't find the attachment in my sent folder. It was just gone. "This is unacceptable, Emily." Dana's voice was sharp as a blade. We were in her office, the door closed, her arms crossed. "That client represents 40% of our quarterly revenue. You made us look incompetent." "I attached the file," I insisted. "I triple-checked it before sending." "Clearly you didn't." Dana's expression was cold, dismissive, so different from the encouraging supervisor I'd met months ago. "I'm documenting this. You need to be more careful." I left her office feeling sick. Something was wrong. I knew I'd attached that file. I checked it twice, sent test emails to myself. The attachment had been there. Alex found me in the bathroom, splashing cold water on my face. "What happened?" I explained everything. The missing attachment, Dana's reaction, the impossible situation I was in. "That's exactly how it started last time," Alex said quietly. "Small mistakes that weren't really mistakes. Things going missing. IT finding nothing." "You think Mark is doing this?" Alex hesitated. "I think you should start backing up everything. Documenting everything. And Emily." Alex's voice dropped to a whisper. "I heard something last week. Mark and Dana having drinks after work. More than once." My stomach dropped. "You think they're together?" "I don't know what they are. But I know he's been saying things. Suggesting you're not leadership material. That the department needs someone more stable." The public humiliation came during our weekly team meeting. 10 people sat around the conference table as Dana reviewed the week's projects. When she got to mine, her tone changed completely. "The Westfield campaign has some concerning inconsistencies," she announced, pulling up my presentation on the screen. "Emily, can you explain why the demographic data doesn't match the proposal?" I leaned forward, studying the slide. My blood ran cold. The numbers were different. Completely different from what I'd submitted. "That's not my version," I said. "Someone changed it." Dana's eyebrow arched. "Someone changed your presentation that only you have access to?" "I don't know how, but those aren't my numbers. Perhaps you should keep better track of your work." Dana's voice dripped with condescension. "This is sloppy, Emily. Uncharacteristic of the standards we expect here." Mark sat across from me, his face carefully neutral, but I saw the corner of his mouth twitch. He was enjoying this. I fought back tears through the rest of the meeting, my cheeks burning with shame. Everyone avoided looking at me. I'd gone from rising star to cautionary tale in a matter of weeks. That night, an email landed in the team distribution list. Anonymous. Subject line: "Concerns about team dynamics." The message accused me of being emotionally unstable, unable to handle pressure, and creating a hostile work environment. Patricia from HR called me in the next morning. Her office was sterile and cold, decorated with corporate motivational posters about teamwork and integrity, words that felt increasingly meaningless. "We've received some concerning complaints about your behavior," Patricia said, her fingers steepled on her desk. "I want to hear your side." "Someone is targeting me," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Files are being altered, things are going missing, and now anonymous emails. This isn't coincidental." Patricia's expression didn't change. "Do you have proof someone is targeting you?" "Not yet, but..." "Then I suggest we focus on the documented issues." She pulled out a folder, surprisingly thick for someone who'd been a model employee for months. Multiple instances of work errors, missed deadlines, and now concerns about your stability. Missed deadlines. I've never missed a deadline. Patricia slid a printout across the desk. A project timeline with my name on it, showing 3 deliverables marked late. I'd never seen this document before. That's not accurate, I protested. I submitted everything on time. That's not what your supervisor reports. I left HR feeling trapped and powerless. The walls were closing in, and no one would listen. That afternoon, Alex sent me an urgent text. Need to talk. Private. Now. We met in the parking garage. Alex looked nervous, constantly glancing around. I think he's deleting your work from the shared drive. Files you created. He's removing your name and adding his. I sat in my car that evening, hands gripping the steering wheel, tears streaming down my face. Everything I'd worked for was crumbling. They were going to fire me. Mark was going to get the promotion. Dana was going to let it happen. Then I looked at myself in the rearview mirror. My mascara was smudged, my eyes red and puffy. I looked defeated. No more, I whispered. The tears stopped. Something hardened inside me. If they wanted to play dirty, they'd picked the wrong person. I wasn't going to rage or make scenes. I was going to be smarter. I spent that weekend creating a system. I set up automatic backups of every file I touched, saved to my personal cloud storage with timestamps. I started forwarding myself copies of every email I sent, every document I created, every interaction with Dana or Mark. I documented everything in a private journal. Dates, times, witnesses, exact quotes. Alex agreed to quietly help, keeping eyes and ears open when I couldn't. On Monday, I came back to the office calm and focused. Mark tried his usual intimidation, speaking over me in meetings, taking credit for my ideas. Let him. I smiled, nodded, and said nothing. But I was watching everything now. The breakthrough came on a Thursday. I'd taken a sick day, genuinely ill with a stress migraine that felt like my skull was splitting. I stayed home, barely able to look at screens. Friday morning, Alex pulled me into an empty conference room. You need to see this. Alex pulled up the server access logs, something Alex could view through the design department's shared systems. Look at Wednesday. Your account was accessed at 2:15 in the afternoon. I was homesick. Exactly. Alex pointed at the screen. Someone logged in as you and modified 3 files in the shared campaign folder. Can we see who? Alex clicked through more screens. The access came through Dana's administrative override. She has the ability to log in as anyone on the team. My hands shook as I photographed the screen with my phone. Why would she risk that? Because she didn't think anyone would check. Alex's expression was grim. Emily, they're not just setting you up. They're actively sabotaging you. That afternoon, I requested a private meeting with Mr. Hayes, a senior director in business development. He'd always been kind to me, and crucially, he operated outside Dana's chain of command. We met at a coffee shop 3 blocks from the office. I showed him everything. The logs, the documentation, the pattern of sabotage. Mr. Hayes listened carefully, his expression growing darker. Emily, I'm going to tell you something in confidence. Mark and Dana have been very close for several months. More than professional. And there's been talk about fast-tracking Mark for leadership. By getting rid of me. He nodded slowly. I can't intervene directly without evidence. But I'm telling you this. Document everything. Because I think you're being systematically removed. I spent the next week building my trap. I created a decoy project file labeled Urgent, Director Presentation Draft, and saved it to my desktop. The file contained a marketing proposal that looked legitimate but had deliberate small errors. Nothing obvious, but enough that someone reviewing it might think they could fix it and take credit. I made sure to leave my computer unlocked when I stepped away, knowing Mark watched my movements. Alex confirmed what I suspected. Mark checked my desk whenever I was away, looking for opportunities. On Wednesday, I left the decoy file open on my screen and went to a deliberately long meeting. I'd already installed company-approved screen recording software, ostensibly for remote task tracking. Had approved it weeks ago when I requested it for client presentations. When I returned, the file had been modified. Time stamps showed changes made while I was in that meeting. My screen recording captured everything. Mark sitting at my desk, opening the file, making changes, and resaving it under his own name in another folder. But the real bombshell came from IT. I'd quietly befriended a technician named Travis who'd helped me set up the recording software. Over coffee, I mentioned my concerns about account security. Travis did some digging. "Emily, your account has been accessed 17 times in the past 6 weeks when you weren't at your desk," Travis told me, showing me the logs. "Every single time using Dana's administrative override. I had everything I needed now. The question was what to do with it." Dana called me into her office on a Friday afternoon. Her expression was cold, businesslike. "Emily, we need to discuss your performance. I'm placing you on a performance improvement plan." PIP. The corporate kiss of death. Everyone knew PIPs were just documentation to justify firing someone. "On what grounds?" I asked calmly. "Multiple performance issues, missed deadlines, quality concerns." She slid the paperwork across her desk. "You'll have 30 days to show improvement." I read through the document. Every accusation was either false or based on sabotaged work. "And if I don't agree with this assessment?" Dana's smile was thin and humorless. "Then we can discuss other options. But I'd suggest you take this seriously, Emily. Your career is on the line." I signed the PIP without arguing. Let her think she'd won. That evening, Alex sent me a disturbing message. "Overheard Dana and Mark in conference room C. They were laughing. Mark said something about removing liabilities and Dana said, 'By Monday, one way or another.' Monday was the day final promotion decisions would be announced. I spent the weekend with my employment attorney, a sharp woman named Catherine Morrison who'd handled workplace discrimination cases for 15 years. I showed her everything. The server logs, the screen recordings, the documented timeline of sabotage. Catherine leaned back in her chair, a grim smile on her face. "Emily, they've handed you a gift. This is textbook retaliation and fraud. The question is, do you want to fight?" "Yes," I said without hesitation. "I want them to face consequences." Monday morning, I came to work early and deliberately left my workstation unattended, with my decoy file open on the screen. The screen recorder was running. I went to the break room, positioning myself where I could see my desk area through the glass wall. Mark appeared within 5 minutes, glancing around before sliding into my chair. I watched him open the file, make changes, delete several sections I'd written, and add his own name to the document header. The recording captured everything in perfect clarity. That afternoon, Dana summoned me to her office. Patricia from HR was already there, along with Mark. My stomach tightened, but I kept my face neutral. "Emily, we need to address some serious concerns," Dana began. "Mark has filed a formal complaint. He says you've been harassing him, undermining his work, and creating a hostile environment." I looked at Mark. He met my eyes with false sincerity. "I didn't want to say anything, but it's gotten bad. The constant interruptions, the stealing of my ideas, the aggressive behavior." "That's not true," I said quietly. "We have multiple witnesses," Patricia added. "Your behavior has become increasingly erratic. Combined with your performance issues, we have no choice but to terminate your employment." Dana actually smiled. "I'm sorry it came to this, Emily. But this company can't tolerate this kind of behavior." I looked at all three of them. "Are you absolutely sure you want to do this?" "Absolutely," Dana said. I nodded slowly. "Then I guess we're done here." Security escorted me out like a criminal. A cardboard box with my personal items. Everyone in the office watching as I did the walk of shame to the elevator. Some people looked sympathetic. Most looked away. Mark stood by the windows, arms crossed, watching me leave with barely concealed satisfaction. In the parking lot, I sat in my car for a long moment. Then I pulled out my phone and called Alex. "It's time." "You sure?" "I'm sure." I drove straight to Catherine's office. She'd already prepared everything, just waiting for my signal. We filed a formal written complaint to Apex's corporate headquarters, bypassing Dana and Patricia entirely. The complaint detailed everything: the systematic sabotage, the server logs showing unauthorized access to my account, the screen recordings of Mark tampering with my files, and the timeline showing how Dana had orchestrated my removal. We attached 60 pages of documentation, every piece time-stamped and verified. Catherine also sent a letter to corporate legal, making it clear this wasn't just an HR issue. This was potential fraud, evidence tampering, and retaliation against a whistleblower who discovered misconduct. What happens now? Yes. Now we wait, Catherine said. Corporate takes these things seriously. They have to. The liability is enormous. That evening, Mr. Hayes sent me an encrypted email. Investigation has been launched. Corporate is reviewing everything. Think I can help? Don't respond to this email. We'll be in touch. Corporate moved faster than I expected. Within 48 hours, I received a call from Apex's head of corporate compliance, a man named Frederick Walsh. His voice was measured, professional, and completely unlike Patricia's dismissive tone. Ms. Carter, we've received your complaint and reviewed your documentation. I want you to know we're taking this extremely seriously. I need you to come to our downtown office for a formal interview. I'll be there. The interview lasted 3 hours. Frederick and 2 corporate attorneys went through everything methodically. They asked detailed questions about dates, times, witnesses, and specific incidents. They reviewed my screen recordings, studied the server logs, and examined the paper trail I'd built. This is comprehensive, Frederick said finally. You've documented everything. I had to. No one was listening. He nodded grimly. We're launching a full investigation. In the meantime, I want you to know that retaliation of any kind will not be tolerated. If Dana, Mark, or anyone else attempts to contact you or interfere with this process, you call me immediately. As I left, Frederick added quietly, we've already requested security footage from your office floor. Every camera, covering the past 3 months. My heart skipped. I hadn't even thought about the security cameras. I'd been so focused on my own recordings that I'd forgotten the building had comprehensive surveillance. What will that show? Yes. Everything, Frederick said. Including things you might not have seen yourself. Over the next week, the investigation intensified. Frederick's team interviewed everyone in the marketing department. Alex told me people were scared, especially after corporate started pulling Dana and Mark into separate meetings. Dana's panicking, Alex reported. She's been calling emergency meetings, trying to control the narrative. Mark's barely said a word to anyone. I stayed away from the office, spending my days at coffee shops and libraries, waiting. Catherine advised me not to contact anyone from Apex, not to engage on social media, not to give Dana or Mark any ammunition. Let corporate do their work, she said. Your evidence speaks for itself. On Friday afternoon, Frederick called. Ms. Carter, we need you to come in tomorrow. We're conducting what we call a reconciliation meeting, reviewing all evidence with key parties present. Will Dana and Mark be there? Yes, along with Patricia, corporate legal, and senior leadership. This will determine the next steps. I barely slept that night. Tomorrow, everything would come to a head. Either I'd be vindicated or Dana and Mark would somehow spin this and I'd be left with nothing. No job, no reputation, no future in this industry. I arrived at corporate headquarters at 9 a.m. sharp. The conference room was on the executive floor, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. It was designed to intimidate, and it worked. Dana and Mark were already there, sitting on one side of the massive table. Patricia sat nearby, looking uncomfortable. On the other side, Frederick, 2 corporate attorneys, and a woman I didn't recognize who was introduced as the executive vice president of operations. Thank you all for coming, Frederick began. We're here to review findings from our investigation into allegations of misconduct, sabotage, and retaliation. Frederick began with the server logs, displaying them on the massive screen at the front of the room. These records show unauthorized access to Ms. Carter's account on 17 separate occasions over a 6-week period. Each access used administrative override credentials belonging to Dana Winters. Dana's face went pale. I can explain that. I was conducting routine quality checks. At 2 a.m. On weekends. Frederick's voice was sharp. And each time, files were modified or deleted. He pulled up the next exhibit. My screen recordings. The room went silent as Mark appeared on screen, sitting at my desk, opening my files and making changes. You could hear his keyboard clicking, see him glancing around nervously, watch him delete my work and replace it with his own. This footage was recorded using company-approved software, Frederick said. There's no question about authenticity. Mark's face had gone from confident to ashen. I was just reviewing team files. I'm allowed to. You're allowed to impersonate a colleague and steal their work. The EVP spoke for the first time, her voice ice-cold. Frederick continued, pulling up email records, document version histories, and witness statements. Alex had given a statement. So had Travis from IT. So had 3 other people who'd noticed strange behavior but had been too intimidated to speak up. The evidence was overwhelming, undeniable. Dana tried to interrupt several times, her voice getting higher and more desperate. Mark just sat there, silent, defeated. Then Frederick said the words I'd been waiting to hear. We'd also like to review security footage from the office floor. The corporate security director, a former FBI agent named Williams, took over the presentation. We pulled footage from all cameras covering the marketing department for the past 90 days. What we found was illuminating. The first clip showed Mark entering the office at midnight on a Tuesday. The date stamp showed it was the same night my major client file went missing. The footage showed him at my desk, using a thumb drive, copying and deleting files. The second clip showed Dana and Mark in her office, door closed, at 11 p.m. The body language was intimate, unprofessional. They were laughing, sitting too close, Dana's hand on Mark's arm. The third clip was the bombshell. Dana and Mark in a conference room, 2 weeks before my firing. The audio was muted, but Williams had brought in a lip reader to transcribe. Dana, we need her gone before promotion decisions. Mark, she's the only real competition. Once she's out, the position is mine. Dana, I'll handle HR. You keep creating problems with her work. Make her look unstable. Mark, already on it. By the end of the month, she'll either quit or we'll have enough to fire her. The room was completely silent. Patricia looked like she wanted to disappear. Dana's mouth opened and closed wordlessly. Mark stared at the table. The EVP stood up. I've seen enough. Dana Winters, Mark Sullivan, you are both terminated effective immediately. You will be escorted from this building by security within the hour. You will not return to collect personal items. Those will be shipped to you. You will sign separation agreements with no severance, no recommendations, and non-disparagement clauses that protect this company. If you refuse, we will pursue legal action for fraud, theft, and conspiracy. Dana found her voice, but it came out weak and desperate. You can't do this. I've been with this company for 8 years. I built that department. You built nothing, the EVP cut her off. You manipulated, cheated, and abused your authority. You're lucky we're not pressing criminal charges. Mark finally spoke. What about the promotion? I earned. You earned nothing, Frederick said coldly. Every accomplishment on your record for the past 6 months was stolen from Ms. Carter. We've reviewed the original file metadata. We know what you did. Patricia shifted uncomfortably. The EVP turned to her. Patricia, your conduct in this matter will be reviewed separately. Your failure to conduct a proper investigation, your apparent bias toward management, and your role in an unlawful termination will all be examined. You're suspended pending that review. Patricia's face crumbled. I was just following procedure. You were covering for misconduct. That's not procedure. That's complicity. Security appeared at the door. 2 guards in crisp uniforms, professional and impersonal. They approached Dana and Mark. "Wait," Dana said, standing up. "Emily, please. This is all a misunderstanding. If you would just—" "Ms. Winters, you're done talking," the EVP said. "Please leave with security." I watched them go, these 2 people who'd tried to destroy me. Mark wouldn't look at me. Dana shot me one last look of pure hatred before the door closed behind them. The EVP turned to me. "Miss Carter, on behalf of Apex Corporation, I apologize. What happened to you should never have occurred. Now, let's discuss your future here." "My future?" I repeated, uncertain. The EVP sat down across from me. "We'd like you to return to Apex. You'll be fully reinstated with back pay for the time you were wrongfully terminated. You'll receive a formal written apology from the company. And we'd like to discuss the director position you were originally competing for." My breath caught. "The director position? You were clearly the most qualified candidate. That was evident even before this situation came to light. Mark's stolen work only confirms it. You were doing director-level strategy already." I paused. "The position is yours if you want it." I looked around the room. Frederick nodded encouragingly. The corporate attorneys watched me carefully, probably worried I'd sue despite everything. "I need to think about it," I said finally. "After everything that happened, I need time to process." "Of course. Take a week. Whatever you need." The EVP stood, extending her hand. "Thank you for your integrity, Ms. Carter. Not everyone would have documented evidence so thoroughly. You may have saved this company from significant legal exposure." As I left corporate headquarters, I felt lighter than I had in months. My phone buzzed with a text from Alex. "What happened?" "Everyone's freaking out. Dana and Mark both escorted out by security." Called Alex from my car. "It's over. They're gone." Alex let out a whoop of joy. "I knew it. I knew they'd get caught." "What about you?" "They offered me the director position." "Emily, that's amazing. Are you going to take it?" I watched the corporate tower receding in my rearview mirror. "I don't know yet. Maybe." I spent the weekend at my sister's house, away from everything, trying to process what had happened. Part of me wanted to go back to Apex, to walk into that building victorious, to take the position that Mark had tried to steal. But another part of me wondered if I wanted to stay at a company that had allowed this to happen in the first place. "You proved them wrong," my sister said over coffee Sunday morning. "That's what matters. Whatever you choose now, you do it from a position of power." She was right. For the first time in months I had choices. Monday morning I called Frederick. "I'll come back. But I have conditions." "Name them." "I want full autonomy over hiring and management in my department. I want a direct report line to executive leadership, not filtered through middle management. And I want a formal company-wide training on workplace harassment and retaliation." Frederick didn't hesitate. "Done. All of it. When can you start?" "Next Monday." The news spread through Apex like wildfire. By Tuesday, I was getting messages from former co-workers congratulating me, apologizing for not speaking up sooner, thanking me for standing up to Dana and Mark. Alex sent me a bouquet of flowers with a card, to the director who earned it the hard way. Mr. Hayes called personally. "Emily, I want you to know how proud I am of you. What you did took incredible courage. Not just documenting everything, but standing firm when everyone was against you." "I had help," I said. "You warned me." Alex supported me. "I didn't do this alone." "Maybe not. But you're the one who had the strength to see it through." Catherine, my attorney, called with news. "Corporate is implementing new whistleblower protections because of your case. You may have changed more than just your own situation." My first day back at Apex felt surreal. I walked through the lobby in a new suit, carrying myself differently. Not defeated or scared, confident. Earned confidence. The elevator ride to my floor felt longer than usual. When the doors opened, several people were waiting. They broke into applause. I felt my throat tighten with emotion. These were my former coworkers, my team, people who'd watched me get destroyed and then rebuilt. They believed me now. Alex rushed forward and hugged me. Welcome back, Director Carter. My new office was twice the size of my old cubicle, with windows overlooking the city. My name was already on the door. Someone had left a plant on my desk, a small succulent with a note, "For new beginnings." My first official act was hiring. I promoted Alex to senior coordinator, a position Alex had earned years ago but had been passed over for. I brought Travis from IT into my department as a technology liaison. I interviewed candidates who reminded me of myself. Talented, overlooked, underestimated. I also implemented new policies. Anonymous reporting channels. Mandatory digital audits of administrative access. Regular meetings between teams and corporate compliance. I was going to make sure what happened to me couldn't happen to anyone else. 2 weeks into my new role, I received a message on LinkedIn. Mark Sullivan wanted to connect. His profile showed he was unemployed. His previous position mysteriously absent from his work history. His message was pathetic. "Emily, I know I messed up. I was under pressure from Dana. She manipulated me. If there's any way you could help me, maybe write a recommendation." I deleted it without responding. Some bridges burn themselves. Alex brought me an interesting piece of information one afternoon. "You're not going to believe this. Dana and Mark, they were having an affair. It's all over the company gossip channels now." "I suspected as much," I said, remembering the security footage. "But there's more. Apparently, Dana promised Mark the director position in exchange for helping her get rid of you. She told him they'd be running the department together, that corporate would never question her recommendations." Alex leaned forward. "She played him as much as she played you." I almost felt sorry for Mark. Almost. He'd made his choices. "Dana's also facing consequences at home," Alex continued. "Her husband filed for divorce. The affair became public during the investigation. And Mark, last I heard, he's blacklisted. No marketing firm in the city will touch him after word got out about the evidence tampering." Alex paused. "Do you ever feel bad for them?" I considered the question honestly. No. They tried to destroy my career, my reputation, my livelihood. They did it deliberately and methodically. What happened to them was justice, not revenge. A week later I got a call from corporate. They'd completed the investigation into Patricia's conduct. She'd been terminated for ethics violations and failure to perform her duties impartially. Apparently, Dana had been pressuring her for weeks to build a case against me, and Patricia had complied without conducting any real investigation. The HR department was being restructured with new leadership, new protocols, and mandatory training on implicit bias and proper investigation procedures. "Your case revealed systemic problems," Frederick told me. "We're fixing them. That's your legacy here." 3 months into my director role, Apex issued a company-wide statement. It didn't name Dana or Mark specifically, but everyone knew what it was about. The memo outlined policy violations that had been discovered, disciplinary actions taken, and new protections being implemented. The statement ended with, "Apex Corporation does not tolerate retaliation, harassment, or abuse of power. We are committed to creating a workplace where excellence is rewarded and integrity is protected." They asked me if I wanted to write a response for the company newsletter. I spent a long time thinking about what to say. I didn't want to gloat or be petty. I wanted to say something meaningful. My statement ran in the next week's newsletter. What happened to me could happen to anyone. The difference between surviving and being destroyed isn't just documentation or evidence. It's the courage to stand firm when everyone tells you you're wrong, to trust yourself when the system fails you, and to believe that truth eventually surfaces. I'm grateful to everyone who supported me and to a company willing to correct its mistakes. We're all stronger when we protect the vulnerable and hold the powerful accountable. The response was overwhelming. I got emails from people across the company sharing their own stories of workplace bullying, retaliation, and fear. Some had stayed silent. Others had tried to speak up and been shut down. My story gave them hope that things could change. Several people asked if I'd be willing to mentor them, particularly women in male-dominated departments who felt overlooked or undermined. I started a monthly lunch group, an informal space where people could share concerns and support each other. Alex told me I was building something important. You're not just a director. You're changing the culture. The EVP told me when she called with the news. Your courage and integrity deserve recognition. The gala was held at a downtown hotel. Hundreds of employees in formal wear. I wore a deep blue dress and walked in with Alex as my guest. People I'd never met came up to congratulate me, to thank me for standing up, to tell me their own stories. When my name was called, I walked to the stage feeling surreal. The EVP handed me a crystal award etched with my name and the company values. Integrity, excellence, courage. Emily Carter exemplifies everything we aspire to be, the EVP said into the microphone. When faced with injustice, she didn't give up. She documented, persisted, and ultimately helped us become a better company. This award is long overdue. The applause was deafening. I looked out at the crowd and saw Mr. Hayes standing, clapping enthusiastically. I saw Travis from IT grinning. I saw Alex wiping away tears. I stepped to the microphone. I didn't set out to be courageous. I just refused to let lies become truth. I want to thank everyone who believed me when it would have been easier to look away. And I want to tell anyone facing something similar. Document everything, trust yourself, and don't let anyone convince you that wrong is right. Thank you. As I left the stage, my phone buzzed with a message. Unknown number. Against my better judgment, I opened it. It was from Dana. Congratulations on your success. I hope destroying my life was worth it. I stared at the message for a long moment, then deleted it without responding. She still didn't understand. I hadn't destroyed her life. She'd destroyed her own life with her choices. I'd simply refused to let her destroy mine. A year after my firing and reinstatement, I sat in my office looking at the city below. My department had grown. We'd landed 3 major clients. My team was thriving and the culture was everything I'd hoped to build. Collaborative, honest, supportive. Alex knocked on my door. You have a visitor. A young woman stood there, nervous and eager. Director Carter. I'm starting as a junior coordinator next week. I just wanted to introduce myself and say, your story is why I applied here. I was in a toxic workplace before and I let them push me out. I didn't fight. When I heard what you did, how you stood up for yourself, it gave me courage to try again. I shook her hand. Welcome to the team. And remember, you never have to face something like that alone. Not here. After she left, I pulled up my journal from that terrible period. All those documented dates and incidents and fears. I'd kept it as a reminder. Not of the pain, but of the strength I'd found when I had no other choice. My phone rang. Catherine, my attorney, calling with news. Emily, you're not going to believe this. 2 other companies have reached out. They heard about your case and want me to review their HR practices. Your situation is literally changing industry standards. After we hung up, I walked to my window and looked at the security camera mounted in the corner of my office. That same type of camera that had recorded my humiliating firing had also recorded Dana and Mark plotting my destruction. Technology was neutral, it was how people used it that mattered. I thought about Mark whispering, should have stayed in your lane, as I was escorted out. He'd been right about one thing. I hadn't stayed in my lane. I built a new one. My computer dinged with a calendar reminder. Company-wide leadership meeting. As director, I'd be presenting our department's quarterly results that had exceeded every projection, proving that a culture built on trust and integrity wasn't just morally right, it was profitable. I gathered my materials and headed to the conference room. As I walked past the security camera in the hallway, I smiled slightly. Let them watch. Let them record. I had nothing to hide anymore. The meeting went perfectly. My presentation received enthusiastic responses from executives who'd once barely known my name. After it ended, the EVP pulled me aside. "Emily, we're expanding. Opening a West Coast office. We need someone to lead it, someone who understands our values and can build the right culture from the ground up." Interested. Promotion. Another opportunity. Another choice made from a position of strength rather than desperation. "Let me think about it," I said. "I've learned to be careful about big decisions." She smiled. "That's exactly why we want you." That evening, I sat in my apartment writing an email to everyone who'd supported me through the nightmare. Alex, Mr. Hayes, Travis, Catherine, my sister. The subject line was simple. "Thank you." I wrote about how their belief in me had given me strength when I had none left. How their willingness to speak truth had made justice possible. How I'd learned that the quiet people watching from the sidelines often see everything, and sometimes they're brave enough to step forward when it matters most. Then I opened my laptop and started writing something else. My story, not for revenge or vindication, but for the next person who'd face what I faced. For the employee who'd be gaslit, undermined and pushed out. For anyone who'd ever been told their truth didn't matter. I titled it, "They Fired Me for Unprofessional Behavior," but when the security footage played, the office went silent. Because silence, I'd learned, could mean many things. Could mean complicity or fear or indifference. But in that conference room when the evidence played and no one could deny what Dana and Mark had done, silence meant something different. It meant truth was undeniable. It meant justice was unavoidable. It meant I'd won. Not by stooping to their level, not by playing their games, but by being exactly what they tried to destroy. Honest, thorough, and unwilling to quit. I saved the document and closed my laptop. Tomorrow I'd decide about the West Coast position. Tonight, I'd celebrate how far I'd come from that terrified woman crying in her car, whispering no more to her reflection. They tried to silence me by firing me. Instead, they'd given me the platform to speak louder than I ever had before. And every person who read my story, who found courage in my experience, who refused to stay silent in the face of injustice, that was my real victory. Not the award or the title or the vindication. The victory was knowing that what happened to me would help prevent it from happening to someone else. I looked at my reflection in the dark window, the city lights twinkling behind me. I raised my glass of wine in a quiet toast. "To staying in your lane," I whispered. "And to building new ones when the old ones are built on lies." The security camera in my apartment building hallway blinked its steady red light. Let it record. I had nothing left to hide, and everything left to build.